We now take a moment to say the prayers that are in our own hearts. You're welcome to use the prayers on the following pages or whatever is in your own hearts. We pray silently, and I will meet you again on page 285. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל העולם, ואמרו אמן. This time in our service, our hearts and our prayers turn to those who are ill or recuperating. And we can find the prayer for healing in our prayer books on page 371. משברך אבותינו ואימותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שרה, רבקה, רחל ולאה, who yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. you are welcome to call out names of people you would like us to be praying for. We continue together. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say, Amen. And we are going to continue with some pages. Those of you who have the printouts, I apologize that I did not print these, but on page 376, since we are celebrating a birthday for our country, we will read the blessing for our country. Trust me, I got this. Although you're welcome to join me. Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing, and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in darkness. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen. And it has become our tradition, as you know, to say, it's over here, sorry, to bless those who are our first responders in our country and everywhere, on behalf of our military, and the police, firefighters, the EMTs, the doctors and nurses and veterans, and I said that maybe this year we need to add our teachers. May the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we've entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us, or healing us in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say, Amen. So I want to tell you a little story about a young guy I knew. When I was in college, in the middle of the school year, I was asked to take over teaching a class. Maybe one day I'll tell you more about why and things. It was a school up in Albany, and it was a school I had, the congregation was one I had already had contact with for a number of years because it was part of SNFT, my Central New York Federation of Temple Youth, my region. But they had asked the previous teacher, who happened to be a housemate of mine, to stop. He stopped teaching. I don't know which way it went. It's irrelevant. And I started this class. I started teaching a class, 6th grade kids. And on the first day, there was this young guy, one of my class students. They came. I was teaching Hebrew. I wasn't teaching music. Throughout my teaching career after confirmation, some years I was only the music teacher, some years I was Hebrew, some years I was both. But at this point, I wasn't the music teacher. I was teaching Hebrew, and it was pre-bar bat mitzvah. And they come after music on a Sunday morning. And this one kid comes in, and he's singing. And I asked him to please stop because I'm supposed to teach. This was my first introduction to this class, and he just kept singing. And I said a little louder, I appreciate that you're singing, but I need to start my class now. And he keeps singing, and he's getting louder. At some point, I realized that what he was singing was a very complicated Hebrew song. that I'm sure that they must have been teaching that day. Lach Yerushalayim ben chomot ha'ir. It's a really long, and he was doing all the words. And so it's really hard for me, the music teacher in me, and the Hebrew teacher in me, to be very mad at a kid who has stuck, he's like a sponge. He's got all these words in his head. But he was not being very respectful. So I eventually, quickly, not that day, some of this happened in more than just a moment, but I found out that one of the things happened when the previous teacher was teaching, and one of the reasons why he wasn't teaching anymore is that this kid was always being disruptive, and that he asked for a conference with the rabbi and with the principal and with the kid's parents. And the teacher, the rabbi, the principal, the parents are sitting there. The kid comes in, and the dad says, "So what are we here for?" And whacks the kid in the face in front of all these other people. And nobody got to say anything before the dad reacted like that. And I kind of promised right then and there I was never going to have a parent conference. I was going to talk to the kid first. And I didn't know this before I went in and when I was teaching this kid. And it turned out that, I mean, this is just because I think you want to know. It's kind of irrelevant to what I'm saying here. But it turned out that this kid he had older brothers who were like superstars in his family's eye. And he came along much later in the family life. And the parents really loved his older brothers and kind of ignored him. And it made me sad. He was a really bright kid. He also got to this, like, blew my mind. I wasn't used to this. And I guess I was about 19 years old. I was still a teenager when all of this was happening. And so my brain wasn't even fully developed, and I'm trying to be the grown-up here. And the next thing that happened is he got up and he walked out of my class. And I'm like, wait, where are you going? And he said, well, I have an arrangement with the rabbi that if I feel like I can't sit still, I'm supposed to go to the rabbi's room. I'm like, how am I supposed to teach you if you're in the rabbi's room? This doesn't sound good. And then I found out about what had happened with his parents, and that his parents his parents didn't treat him with respect. And I learned how to really love my kids. Really show love to each kid. Each kid is coming with something different. And that made a huge impact on me as a young teacher in the classroom. But I also know that sometimes when people, I don't know what it was that was making him uncomfortable in the class that made him want to rebel like that. But sometimes you do things that are kind of out of character, I guess. There's no reason why he should be trying to get attention to himself in a classroom setting, except he was a kid who seemed to need attention. And I hate that he was getting negative attention until I came around for singing Hebrew songs out loud. I mean, I just talked to him after class, and we had other arrangements instead. And I don't remember him ever walking out of the class again after that time, after we had shown some appreciation and things. I'm telling you this a little bit because first I have to apologize. I had a hiccup last week. I don't know what came over me. I think it was exhaustion and all kinds of things. Guess what I told you last week that I deserve to apologize about? I told you that the Torah portion of the week was Korach last week, but it's not. It's this week. This week is about rebellion. Last week was about rebellion, and I could have done a really cool thing about it. Was the one where the scouts go out and then we get stuck wandering around the country, out the wilderness for another 38 years. I could have done a really cool thing about that, but no. I did on Saturday, but no, I had to say we were talking about Korach and rebellion. That's what made me think about this story with this kid. One of the things that makes me who I am, to try to listen to people and try to figure out where they're coming from, and try to understand why people rebel. Korach rebelled. He said, I thought I deserved. Who does Moses think he is? Why does he get all the glory? Isn't he part of the Levite crew too? He was. He was a Levite. And didn't you say that we're all priests? We're a nation of priests. Why do you think you deserve to be such hot stuff? And Moses, of course, said, as you know in the story, Moses said, wait, are you think I chose this job? I didn't choose this job. I tried to get rid of this job. But he didn't say that out loud at that moment in time. We just happen to know the story. But Korach was a rebel trying to get attention, and it was not just embarrassing, but pretty devastating. There's this part, and I would love to talk to you about this. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but it's pretty cool that Moses says, if you think that I chose this lifestyle, then we can all die natural deaths. It'll all be fine. But if I didn't choose it, if God chose me, then something dramatic is going to happen. Like the earth is going to open up its mouth and just swallow you up. And guess what? The earth opened up its mouth and swallowed him up. And I struggle with that story because I wonder, did Moses put that bug in God's ear? Or did God put the bug in Moses' ear? Like, is like a Cyrano de Bergerac kind of thing? Is Moses sitting there with like a headset and God is feeding him lines? Oh, it'd be really cool. Tell him this, Moses. Tell Korach this. And then the next thing you know, it swallows up and opens him. Or if Moses is saying, hey, God, make me look good, because I didn't do this. I didn't choose it. Do something dramatic, like swallow him up. And then God does. God and Moses are going, yeah, that'll be funny. Let me do, I don't know what happened. So I think about that sometimes. And I don't mean to be disrespectful about this. We in Torah study love to say that Torah is gloriously ambiguous. That we don't know. There's a lot that's behind the scenes that we don't know. And sometimes we think about it in joyful ways, and sometimes we think about it in difficult ways. And that's one of them that always gets to us, and we're like, what do you think was going on here in this story? Sometimes, I guess, we have to act up. Sometimes we have to rebel. We're watching a lot of rebellion in this country. We are celebrating a birthday, and we're watching rebellion. And I am supposed to stand here. This is part of why I hiccuped so badly last week, because I'm supposed to stand here and be your leader and tell you what to do. And I don't know what to do. I don't know. I pray for our country. I have confidence in our country to be doing the right thing. I pray. I appreciate everyone who is doing their part to make this country be the country it needs to be. There are times in the past few weeks that I feel like some of our rights have been taken away. And that makes me sad. Because I love the fact that we have rights and freedoms in this country. And it makes me sad when it feels like some of those rights are taken away. I feel like, we can talk about it. I sent you a message today about freedom. Here's another secret, another hiccup. If you look at the page about all the wonderings, the one that I did 2 wonderings ago was about freedom, because it was about Passover. And I realized that freedom is a really important part of the Jewish tradition. We celebrate freedom at Hanukkah, religious freedom. We celebrate freedom at Passover when we celebrate freedom from oppression. We also, shortly after, we celebrate freedom at Shavuot when we stand at Sinai and we are free to choose to be in a covenant. And ironically, part of being free is to have guidelines and laws. And we get to freely choose whether we want to keep these laws or not. So it's a topic that I've been thinking about a lot lately, partially because we decided we were going to talk about it, Red River Radio, and we, almost everybody, this is between me and you, this is what happened. At Red River Radio, we have this show, I don't know if you've heard this, but we have a core group of pastors and imam and priests and me, and we talk about topics every other week, and it airs every other week. And we have an interesting group of people, Hindu guy, and this week they said they wanted to talk about freedom. And that makes sense, it's going to air on July 3rd, so it made sense. But it turned out that they were all going away. So I suggested an alternate way of doing the show. Why don't you just, like we did for a lot of the services that we did during the pandemic, why don't you record yourself talking about how your faith feels about freedom? It wasn't supposed to be religious freedom. It wasn't a debate about what's going on in the country. It was about, what does your faith teach about freedom? Like I just did, Hanukkah, Passover, free to choose about covenant. And they all said, yes, great idea. Well, we need an hour-long show. And the person in charge was in Baton Rouge. Turns out she was in Baton Rouge getting her car stolen, so she was having a traumatic event. And then there was a guy who found out at the last second that he got tickets to be able to go home, which is Tonga. I was supposed to have an hour-long show with everybody providing 10 minutes or more of a recording, and almost nobody did. So we added a few more people, and we have a show, but you're going to hear me, you may not want to listen, you're going to hear me talk a lot, because I had to fill in like what I thought was going to be 10 minutes, and I had to fill in like half an hour. But that's this show. It's a different one. It's kind of a little bit like what we were doing during the pandemic, everybody's voices and not a conversation. But I would love to talk to you about what freedom is and what do you think is happening about freedom in our country, because I'm seeing, not surprisingly, pros and cons. So I'm going to tell you some of what's going on here that you are free to participate in. Like, we have a Zoom that starts about half an hour after this. If you are trying to get on the Zoom and the Zoom isn't working, just give me another minute. It means that I haven't gotten home and set up yet. Tomorrow morning we're on Zoom again. We'll talk about Korach and rebellion and all of those topics that are complicated. And then at 11 we have a service tomorrow, which is always enjoyable and fun. I think if you come, you will enjoy it. Monday, the office is closed here. If you saw, we fixed it in the email that you got. I'm sorry that we sent two. But the Secure Community Network, which is, the same group that trained that rabbi in Texas who was able to protect his congregants. They are doing webinars, online webinars in July, the first 3 weeks of the month. I think it's first three, but it's Wednesdays, and it's at noon our time. We first started saying 1 Eastern time. I didn't want to confuse anyone. Noon our time. You just have to sign up. It's not going to cost you anything. You sign up, they send you the link. The first one is this Wednesday, and it is called Be Aware, Introduction to Situational Awareness Training. And then next Wednesday is Countering an Active Threat Training. And then on July 20th, it's going to be a Stop the Bleed training. If you're interested, sign up and let me know, or let Sam know that you've signed up, because it helps for us to know who has gotten. It's not a real training. You don't get certification at the end of something like this, but I have been attending these a lot, and it's really helpful. It helps to know what to do and what not to do. They give you great videos of things that people did that were good ideas and things that they did that you can't believe they did, and now you know not to do them. So if you can, they're at noon on Wednesdays. Grab a lunch. You're not on the screen. It's just them on the screen. And I encourage you, if you can, to do it and let your friends know. You may have noticed that the new calendars are out, 5783. Are out already, because otherwise you can't make any appointments for October or beyond. It's kind of frustrating. And we appreciate Roseneath Funeral Home for providing them. And donations were made to B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in honor of everyone with birthdays or anniversaries this month by the B'nai Zion Sisterhood. Thank you for that. And I would like to call up everyone with birthdays or anniversaries so that we can say a special blessing to them, to you. Everyone, birthdays, anniversaries, please come up. And I want to remind you that these are awesome ceramic mugs, and they say Mazel Tov from B'nai Zion. And if you have one already, now you could take another one and have a whole set, because they're really lovely. And I'm going to suggest, as our blessing for them, if you have the Shabbat book, turn to page 381. This is the blessing I would like to give you, and everyone can help me with this. May you live to see your world fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. May you trust in generations past and yet to be. May your heart be filled with intuition and your words be rich in understanding. May songs of praise ever be on your tongue and your vision clarify a straight path before you. May your eyes shine with the light of Torah and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom, and your fulfillment be in righteousness, even as you ever yearn to hear the words of the Ancient One of Holiness. And we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheanu, V'kiyamanu, v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You gave us life, you sustained us, and you helped us come to this moment where we get to celebrate with our friends. May we be together for many more years, celebrating in health and happiness. And then I would like to invite, thank you. And I would like to invite the people who are moving far, far away from here to come up and help us by opening the Ark for the Aleinu. Would you mind? We continue on the bottom of page 586, and as the Ark is opened, please rise. Thank you. Aleinu l'shabach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. And in the middle of page 591 we continue by singing ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. As the ark is closed, you may be seated. Yes, we're going to cry. But somehow we can go from New Jersey to Shreveport and still be connected. So we can go from Shreveport to anywhere else and still be connected. Especially since, Zoom. You may be seated. We got really good at Zoom, at least. We continue on page 597, and as you know, this is the part that bounces around a little bit more than what we like, because we're using the order that we are accustomed to. At the bottom of the page, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. And we acknowledge that we have lost 6 people in our military this year. We've lost 130 police officers, including 3 people who died this week. We lost 12 canine officers, including 2 who died this week. We've lost 56 firefighters, including 4 who died this week. May we be forever grateful for their service and remember their ultimate sacrifice. And I would invite us to continue on as we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And I'm going to suggest that at the top of 597, we continue. We know that Veterans Day is supposed to honor the veterans who are still alive, and we have a few among us now. We know that Memorial Day is supposed to commemorate and honor the memories of those who died in service. But Independence Day is supposed to be a time of celebration and appreciation of our independence. But I think that we still need to honor those who are our veterans and those who are serving now and those who died in service. So this on page 597, I think, covers a lot of that. Remember our people who suffered and died so that we could be free and secure. May their memory be more than a distant shadow. For their dreams left unfulfilled and lives taken too soon, we remember. Remember our brothers and sisters whose sacrifice kept the dream of democracy and justice alive. May their courage be our inspiration and strength. For life cut short and vision unrealized, we remember. Remember the fallen of our armed services, the victims of terror and tragedy. May the darkness of their loss not obscure the light of peace. They were in love with our land and in love with life. For the agony, the tears, the mothers and the fathers, for the children who were, and for the children yet to be, we remember. We continue on page 599. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We remember congregants' parents who died within the past year. That includes Carl Aaron, Carolyn Talbert, Marcia Katzenstein, Claire Maisel, Bobby Jean Gray, and Bobby Goodman. And remember those who died at this season in years past, the Yortzites for whom we remember those whose Yortzites we observed during this past week. We remember Dora Bluestein and Mrs. Marks Bluestein. We remember Kurt Braun, Ruben Bierikoff, Beulah Marie Notestein Courtney, I think, Orville Dupree, Harold Feigelson, Gertrude Feiner, Matthew Gold, Gladys Guggenheim, Sam Handel, Ben Levy Sr., Harry Lipson, Wayne McElvey, Dr. Gerald Emil Posner, Max William Roth, Sam Rubin, Mrs. Ophi T. Rubin, Marion D. Sorkin, Mrs. Joseph Paul Stewart Sr., and Rose Van Thyn. We remember those who we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for blessing. We turn, well, you don't have to turn, you should already be at page 598. If it is your tradition to do so, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaye chon u'v'yomei chon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Please be seated. I'm going to turn you to page 625. And try a new experiment. I don't think I've ever done this one before. All right, I think I remember. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra, לעד נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. Let's try that again. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra, לעד נשא וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. You didn't even need the words for that one. It worked, it worked. It worked. Please rise for the closing benediction. I hope that if you feel a need to rebel, I hope it's not because you're not appreciated like my little friend was. I hope that you find reasons to rejoice in this wonderful holiday in our wonderful country, and I hope that your Shabbat is a blessed one. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Independence Day. That was the blessing I taught last week when I was teaching at church. There was a church on Sunday. Dun, dun, there was method.